Okay, everyone, let's grab our seats. It's officially 8:30 p.m. My name's Ron. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome, everyone. Let's get this party started. You know, the beauty of this is it gets broadcast around the world because of a thing called YouTube. We got over 500,000 views, so it's pretty powerful. Our speakers get to carry this message around the world. Not only what we do here in person, but the ripple effect of this. And so that's why we record all our speakers. It's a beautiful thing. So be mindful of our place right here. Be mindful of the church. Try not to destroy it too bad. They got all kind of stuff going on during December, and we get displaced and moved around. They're actually remodeling this entire room, so that's going to take place over the next month and back and forth. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. I've seen the pictures. They're posted on our Facebook page. But they request that we come in through the front door from now on because of two reasons. One is, in case we don't have use of this room, we're going to use the front room or the side room. So let's shoot from the hip. There's usually on our Facebook group, we update where to go, in case we had to move. Last week, because of a big Christmas celebration they had, we had to move to the Legion, American Legion post across the street. So if you ever show up here and the doors are locked, we never close this meeting unless unless the world ends, right? So you can look for us. We're either across at the American Legion or over at Salem Church over at 186 Court Street. Anyway, with that, I think that's enough stuff that I could announce. And with that, we got the world's greatest chairperson all the way from Southern Canada. Let's give Kara a warm hand.
Good evening, y'all. Welcome home. My name is Kara, and I am an alcoholic. Hello, everybody. This is a one-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m. and speaker at 8:30 p.m. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God, reliance, and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name?
Danny, alcoholic. This is Danny. Welcome.
Danny, welcome.
First time in this meeting, Dan, alcoholic.
Welcome.
Earl, alcoholic. First time in.
Welcome.
I'm Will, an alcoholic, my first time.
Welcome, Will.
Jesse, alcoholic, first time.
Welcome, Jesse.
Sean, alcoholic.
Welcome, Sean. Welcome, everyone. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with a working knowledge of the 12 steps and willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Beautiful. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Nick?
My name is Nick, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Nick.
If you have a Venmo, if you want to make a donation for Seven Christian, just come see me after. We do have a QR code, but it's not out here tonight, but I have it on my phone. Also, we have some H&I tournaments more on a Sunday night at the treatment center, 7 o'clock Sundays ongoing. And then Wednesdays, men only, is a big book meeting in Hatfield. So if you want to be of service and are interested in those things, come see me after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Our sister group is a big book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. just up the street at Salem UCC Church, 186 East Court Street, Doylestown. Coffee is on at 6:15. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purpose of big books to help those who cannot afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Books and CD Donations. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and our Facebook group. Subscribe and share. You can find our speakers there. Join our Facebook page to keep informed, and you can share upcoming events and meetings. Now I'd like to welcome a good friend of Conscious Contact. He's going to come up read Just for Today Prayer Recovery. Let's give Jason a warm welcome. Woo!
Good evening, everyone. My name's Jason. Welcome home. It's really awesome to have a bunch of new faces in the crowd tonight. It's going to be a great speaker tonight, I can tell. So, my name's Jason. I'm an alcoholic. Just for today, prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can. Dress becomingly. Talk low. Act courteously. Criticize not one bit. Not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anyone except myself. If you can, put your hands together for a warm welcome. One dear friend of mine, my sponsor, Nickaholic.
My name's Nick, and I am an alcoholic, aka Alcohol Nick. Okay, and this is the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other. They may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership, and we are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And now, if you would, please put your hands together and give Michelle a nice warm welcome. Can I read our 12 steps?
Hi, I'm Michelle, and I'm an alcoholic. And these are the AA 12 steps of recovery. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, made direct amends to such people, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And I'd like to invite Kara back up to introduce our speaker for tonight. Thank you.
Our Southern tradition states that every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we would like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses. This group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big book CDs, events and workshops, etc. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the movement to avoid distractions. Now, I'd like to introduce the speaker, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group. Let's give Eric B., he came all the way from Somerset, New Jersey, a warm welcome! Woo!
Very enthusiastic.
I am.
Yes, you are. Hello, everyone. My name is Eric. I'm an alcoholic and addict. My sober date, finally, I decided to step off the hamster wheel in November 11th, 2020. It took me the better part of 40 years to get to step one. I have a sponsor, his name is Bob O. He has a sponsor, his name is Terry B. Both of these gentlemen I have been out with on various AA commitments. As a matter of fact, last night I was in Pottersville, New Jersey. I went out to dinner with the boys and then supported them as they spoke. My sponsor was one of the speakers. So I'm going to give you a quick, I guess I'm going to qualify as quickly as I possibly can. So I've made a mess of my life for a very, very long time. The first drink I had, I was 11. I had already taken part in other extracurricular activities prior to that. But my first drink was 11. And turns out I was at a family function, a wedding, and I ran around it and finished everyone's champagne at the wedding. Hated the taste, loved the effect. And my drinking career took off from there. And it's littered with me drinking too much, the same thing over and over again, and blacking out incessantly. Now, I didn't start out as an everyday drinker, but when I drank with the motivation to get drunk. And that's been a mainstay my whole life. Now, I can go through the wreckage. You know, I've wrecked 3 cars, totaled, all alcohol related, though somehow, miracle, I didn't collect a DUI from any of the car wrecks that I took place in or was responsible for. I did manage to pick up 2 DUIs along the way anyway. One in Reno, Nevada, one in good old New Jersey. And I've been arrested countless times. I probably stopped counting at 7 or 8, for a variety of different reasons. Now, I'm sure all of us have stories like that. War stories, I guess, if you call it, but I'm not really going to get too involved in any of that. The thing that AA has taught me is I have a disease that's centered in my mind. That's where it's located. The drinking and the drug use are what I showed to the public. That's what I showed everything. But there's a part of my disease that I didn't show anyone. And therein lies my problem. You know, the analogy for me is simple. The iceberg, you see part of it, it's above the water. The majority of it, and it's huge, is below. And that's kind of what AA has taught me. So the funny thing is, I mentioned that the first drink I had I was 11. Now, some people say that they progressed to being an alcoholic. What AA has taught me is I was always an alcoholic. And the reason I say that is simple. Even at 5 years old, there's an uncomfortability that I carried around. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't like, I meet people like oil and water mixed together. I just don't do it well. I was uncomfortable all the time. There was an anxiety that I carried around. Now, as a child, I moved around a lot. And with each move, I became more and more uncomfortable. And the irony of the whole situation is, as an adult, I proceeded to carry on the same thing. I was always on the move, always on the run. Everywhere I went, the one guy I was trying to get away from, I never could. It was Eric. And I ran to Reno, I lived on the beach in Connecticut, I lived in upstate New York, I made it to Washington, D.C., I got as far away as North Africa, and the one thing that happened is I was a wrecking ball. There was trouble each and every time. It could be financial, It could be employment. A lot of it involved the police department here and there, quite a few of them, as a matter of fact. And that was kind of my whole life. And the one recurring, I guess, theme of my life is it got smaller and smaller and smaller, to the point where in 2020, at least the start of 2020, I was renting a room, and I was kind of estranged from everybody. I had built up walls all over the place and kept everyone at bay because I didn't want to see anyone, I didn't want to let anyone in for fear that you would figure out that I have some issues. I have that stuff that's under the water, you would find out about. And I couldn't let that happen. So that's how I operated. 2020 is a very funny year because almost without me knowing it, things started to happen when I look back at it. Now, we all remember the virus. I got laid off on March 18th. It was a Wednesday. I was pretty ticked off about that. And for whatever reason, when I look back at it, it's hard for me to figure out where this decision came from. But I literally thought to myself that, all right, I'm going to get laid off, right? And I'm going to get paid. Now, I mentioned how small my life had gotten. It was tiny. I was renting a room. I have no car, no license. You know, I stacked all my bills to the side. I didn't look at them. I had my head in the sand. And for whatever reason, at this point in my drinking career, I was drinking every day. Not nonstop, but every afternoon. I would stop by one of the 4 liquor stores that I had in my rotation. Because I couldn't go to one that would, they discover quite quickly that I was a raging alcoholic and was at the liquor store every day. So I had 4 in the rotation. And you know, it's funny when I look back at it, I don't even know where the decision came from. But I thought to myself, you know what's a really bad idea? Me not working, I'm getting paid, what am I going to do? And I knew the answer. I'm going to walk to the liquor store at least once, more than likely twice, because I could now. And I had gotten to the point where my drinking career, I was trying to manage my alcohol abuse. I would like, okay, here, I'm going to buy this amount and drink this amount, and I won't go any further than that. But the truth be told is I'm kind of a lunatic. Once I start drinking, I can't stop. So I thought it would be a bad idea. So I put a call in to my mother and father, who clearly know my drinking history. And I knew that if I was in their house, right, I would not allow myself to drink. Now, as 2020 went on, I went back to work. And I'm pretty sure each and every one of you in this room could figure out what I did the first day I got back to work. Bam! Right back at the liquor store that afternoon, right after work. And that, I was probably out of work for 3 months. But this is how my life, and the funny part is, I said my life got small, it got even smaller in 2020. I got kicked out of not kicked out, but I had to move out of the room I was renting because the couple that I was renting from was pregnant. They needed the room I had. They had a second child on the way. So here I am in 2020, the summer of, now I'm homeless. Just when you think my life can't get any smaller, it most certainly did. Now this alcoholic's brilliant idea was I'm going to live at work. I was managing a party rental company We had 2 warehouses. I had access to everything. I had access to the buildings. I didn't go in there, but I had access to the trailers, the vehicles, and I sat in the parking lot, and I'm pretty sure you could probably all figure out what I was doing. I was drinking. I was drinking a lot. That's what I did every day. You know what's funny? That summer, I spent every afternoon drinking, right? But I began to ask myself a question. And I began to question I began to question myself. You know, every afternoon, and probably later in the evening, sometime around 8, now I'm 12 beers deep and a couple shots deep into the evening. And I started to say to myself, you know what? You might be an alcoholic, and maybe tomorrow, I shouldn't drink. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I won't drink tomorrow. Tomorrow would come back around, I'd feel fine about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was right back at the liquor store once again. And that's how the cycle continued throughout that summer. Now, as the summer progressed, I ended up getting caught being homeless. My brother had ratted me out, and I had to course correct that. So I started staying back with my mother and father, and doing that. Now that curbed my drinking habit, right? But I continued the whole thought process that there's something's not right. Something's wrong, right? And I have a father who's an alcoholic, and he's got long-term sobriety, 27 years. I have a sister who's an alcoholic and an addict. She's got about 11 years. And it runs in the family. You know, I have family members that are still out and about doing their thing, and they may go on to the bitter end. So one afternoon, and again, this is another one of those things that I'm not even sure who said it. When I look back at it, I call it an act of providence. It was, quite frankly, it was God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. And the words tumbled out of my mouth. I said, "Listen, Dad, I've got something to say to the family, and I need to say it." And as the words tumbled out of my mouth, I knew this man was not going to let me slide on this. He was going to hold me to this. And it didn't take very long. It was probably, I might have said something on Thursday, and by Saturday morning, I came upstairs, and boom, my mother, my father, and Amanda were all in the kitchen. And, for the first time in my life, I said 3 words that I've never said before. Never once. I need help. I think I'm an alcoholic and addict. And that was the beginning for me of my journey, which has brought me to here tonight. I had finally gotten to for me, step 0, I'll call it. I was to the point where I was literally sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was on a hamster wheel running as fast as I possibly could, getting absolutely nowhere. My life sucked. That's where it was. And all of a sudden, I came into contact with another word that I've never really given much thought before. I was willing. I was really willing. Desperate to do something. I've had 2 stints in AA, one 27, 28, one mid-30s, 35, 34, somewhere in there, I can't even remember. I stuck my big toe in the AA water and said, "Nope, I'm not having any of that. I am nothing like any of you people. I have my own plan, I know what I'm doing, trust me." Turns out, total BS. I have no clue what I'm doing. I had gotten to willing was the one thing I was dripping with. I was ready to do anything. You told me to, circle this church 3 times naked. I was ready to do that. I really, really wanted it. And that's the first time that's happened. I've learned so much in the program. So here I am, right? Now, I'm at step one. Admitted I'm powerless over alcohol and the drugs I used to use, and my life has become unmanageable. Now, I find it absolutely unbelievable when I read our literature, how well, and I'm a perfectionist, so I'm always very careful of using this word. It's absolutely perfect. That's my opinion on our literature. And I can break it down, so now I'm looking at the word powerlessness, and I'm a bit of a wise guy, so, what does this mean? Well, powerlessness, all right, so as far as my disease is concerned, I have a long history of being powerless over the drugs and alcohol I've used. One of the things I've come to recognize is I am always chasing the first. You can fill in the blank. But the first drink, the first whatever it may be. When I say alcohol, like twined like a rope, there's drugs involved, but doesn't matter. It's all the same to me. I can't stop, right? And as I'm reading our literature early in the book, I've gotten to the point where I'm looking at the thing going, a physical allergy. I'm allergic to alcohol. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's not too hard to wrap my head around, because I am. I can still describe it to this day. That first sip, the very first sip, was like a warm glow going down my throat. And it was just me shifting gear. I just wanted more. I could not stop. Due to the fact that I could not stop, I couldn't tell you exactly what was going to happen. Is the car going to be okay? Where am I going to end up? Am I going to be back in the back of a police officer's vehicle on a given night? I just didn't know, because the simple truth of the matter is I can't stop. I really couldn't. And as my disease progressed, turns out I needed less alcohol to get to that blackout point that I used to get to. It's a frightening thing. And then the other aspect for me was the mental obsession of the whole disease. Now, probably this was a little bit more of a difficult concept, because I would have looked at you and lied to you and been like, oh, I don't obsess over alcohol and drugs. That's not something I do. But clearly, I do. I used to plan my day about, okay, I'm out and about and I'm on the road and I'm passing by this liquor store. I can stop there, but it runs so much deeper than that. The mental obsession to me attacks me from different avenues. It comes at me. I can't tell you how many times where I've told myself the famous words, it's going to be different this time. I'm going to shoot into the bar, right? I'm just going to have 2, and then I'm going to leave. Meanwhile, I'm sitting at the bar, and it's the bartender screaming last call, and I'm like, can I get one more? That's the way it worked. And the other thing that used to happen to me is I knew full well that I can't drink tonight, right? I've got something to do early in the morning. I'm meeting somebody early in the morning, and I cannot drink tonight. I'm not going to. Bam, I'm at the liquor store. And I'm drinking. And I blow up the whole next day. I have an obsession from alcohol and drugs. I just do. And I'm a little bit different than other people, and that's okay. The last aspect of step 1 was the whole unmanageability part. And this is another misconception I have. When I sat down with my sponsor about this, I immediately thought I had it nailed, because my life was certainly unmanageable. I mentioned how small my life had gotten. The fact that I was, summer of 2020, I was homeless. Now, I've got no car. I've got no license. I haven't filed taxes in 5 years. I'm missing teeth. My life was so unmanageable, right? This is how I figured it, that due to the fact that I was too busy drinking and using, do I really want to eat dinner tonight? Because if I eat dinner, it's going to fill up my stomach. I won't be able to drink anymore. That's how sick. Or showering. Can't shower either. Because that's going, that 15-minute shower, that's going to prevent me from drinking. Unless I take the beer shot into the shower. I don't think I haven't done it, because I have. And the funny part is, that's not what my sponsor called it, an inner unmanageability. And almost as the words tumbled out of his mouth, I immediately picked up on it. Like, oh, okay, I have this not quite right. And it all fit together like pieces of a puzzle for me. I was like, okay. And I've already mentioned I have a disease that centers in my mind, and this is the unmanageability. I believe our big book calls it bedevilments. I've got quite a few of them, if not each and every one of them. But that's where my unmanageability existed. There's a whole, my unmanageability of my fear, my unmanageability of my selfishness, my lying, and a host of other activities. So the funny part about, for me, step one is the further, and I still consider myself a beginner in AA. I'm at the 5-year mark, right? Each time I read our literature, I get more and more and more out of it each and every time. The funniest part about step one for me is when you got to the word honesty. I looked around and said, wait a minute. All right, I'm powerless over alcohol, right? My life is unmanageable, but you're telling me you want me to be honest? Yeah, I'm not really sure if I can. I'm a terrible, terrible liar. I was going to have to come clean. I've lied in every way known to man. I've lied because I was trying to get myself out of trouble. I've lied to make myself look better, and mostly women. I've lied by omission. I've lied, gotten caught, and doubled and tripled down on it. Clung to that lie as tight as I possibly could. And I was going to have to change all of that. Step one taught me that. You know, I started coming into rooms like this and say, listen, yeah, I'm Eric and I'm an alcoholic and addict, but I'm also a liar. I'm a manipulator. I'm a hider. I'm uncomfortable all the time. I carry around an anxiety that's hard for me to describe. I have a loneliness that's hard for me to describe. I'm the most selfish guy on the planet. None of you exist. I am a terrible, terrible human being. Because I was. And that's what step one always reminds me of. Truly, all the steps are amazing, but step one really started to drive the nail home for me. And then, you know, I mentioned how the program is worded. I always find as I go through the steps, I can always pick out a word that I can really cling to. You know, and I thinking about step two, came to believe in a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity, and that word came. And it's so funny that, you know, initially coming into the program, when I sat down with my sponsor, and I look back at it now, I was, and I'll just take the first 3 steps, I was dishonest, closed-minded, and unwilling. And I got to step 2 and I read that word came. Now, I told you that I had everyone blocked off and was the master of walls, keeping everyone at arm's length. And step 1 is fascinating to me. I mean, step 2, excuse me, is fascinating to me because some of the most heated discussions I've ever heard in the rooms are discussed about the G word, God. At least today, I don't have an issue with it at all, though I still carry around some prejudices when it comes to that. But that's neither here nor there. So the word came to me, right? It sounds so silly. Came to believe in a power greater than myself. Well, that's telling me right away that, the first thing I asked my sponsor is, I came. That means at some point, I came to believe in a power greater than me. And it's the open-minded step. I have to be open to the idea that maybe, just maybe, Eric doesn't have all the answers. I don't know everything, and lo and behold, that's okay. Today I always use the word I've come to believe in a power greater than myself. The evolution of the whole process for me is glaringly obvious that there's something greater than me, including this program, which I believe was touched by the hand of God, but that's my opinion. And it's the one step, also when I read our literature, and I hear, I've got to remove myself from the debating society. And I thought to myself, oh God, it describes me to fatigue. I always want to get involved. I always want to be right. If there's something going on and I disagree with you, I'm jumping in. Here I come. Here comes Eric. And, I had to pump the brakes on that. Maybe even learn to shut my mouth, which I'm still working on. So then, the whole higher power issue, and turned my will and my life over the care of God as I understood Him. I made a decision, right? The thing that really cracks me up about this particular step is care of. I don't think I picked up on it until, year maybe 4, where I really noticed the words care of. I used to tell people, the example I'm going to use, right? And this is the step where I really began to focus on the selfishness that I carry around with me. So there's the care, I'm back to the care of, right? And so I'm looking to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. Thy will, not Eric's. Now, I have a long history of me playing God and thinking that, as I mentioned earlier, I am the end-all, be-all of existence, and I know everything. Clearly, I do not. And it's always funny to me as I use the analogy, imagine me driving down the road, right, and I look over at my higher power, God, standing next to me, and say, all right, you're in charge, you take the wheel, it's all you. I'm letting go of the whole thing. And that's not really how it works for me. I have responsibilities to do my part, man the ship, drive the car, and then step back and let the care of God take it from there. I use it, my example is me looking for a new job. I'm out there looking for a new job. What are my responsibilities? Okay, I need to bring the resume up to date. I need to get the resume out and about. And then, and only then, when my work is done, I can step back and let the chips fall where they may. And that's what step 3 has taught me. And the other thing that was, I didn't really like the word surrender. I still don't. But early on in sobriety, somebody mentioned, as I was sharing, a man named Jeff had mentioned, said, oh, you're still in conflict. And I thought to myself, oh, now there's a concept I could wrap my head around. Because the simple truth of the matter is I've been in conflict with something or somebody, everybody, my whole life. And that needed to stop in order for me to to attain the goals that this program and myself have set out for myself. Step 4 was not one I was looking forward to. It's like the boogeyman off in the distance when I came into the program that I really thought to myself, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of oneself. I'm like, who would ever want to do this? And why would I want to do this? And being a good alcoholic, I procrastinated. My sponsor had to give me a swift kick and give me a deadline in order for me to get rolling on it. But it's so necessary. It was necessary for me because, as I was doing it, and once I finally got started, it just flowed. I had multiple pieces of paper, and once I got started, I was rolling. It wasn't the big bag boogeyman that I thought it was out to be. But, it was another lesson. It became glaringly obvious. I had a couple of core defects of character that were staring back at me. And all that work, it was a self-centered fear that I carry around that was glaringly obvious. And the other aspect of it, was the last column, where was I to blame? It's such a no-nonsense column, there's no BS in it at all. I'm taking the hammer, I'm hitting the nail, and I'm sending it home. And it was also just a huge learning experience for me. Because I'm a clinger. I hold on to stuff and don't let it go. And at the same time, I'm clinging, holding on, and I'm not letting go, and I'm not speaking about it at all. I just stuff it all down and hold on to it. And that step 4 was something else. Because the simple truth of the matter is, it got me a little bit fired up, angry. I was, I'm thinking to myself, as a child, the things that happened to me as a child, how could I be like, what do you mean I'm to blame? I was 6, I was 7, I was 8. Where is my blame in that? But the truth be told, like I said, I'm a clinger. So I hold on to something, right? And I replay it over and over for decades on end. And I don't let it go. That's where I was to blame. It was one of the most enlightening moments of my AA history. It's amazing to see that, okay, it's time to let go. And that's what step 5 did for me. God, myself, and another, right? And it turns out that step 5 was way scarier for me than step 4. I was going to let the cat out of the bag, right? And I got over to my sponsor's house. I was, just for resentments alone, I was at Bob's house for 3.5 hours. There was tears shed. I was emotionally drained after 3.5 hours of that, and I was thanking God that Bob didn't want to go any further. I still had fears and harms to come through, and that was going to be on a different day, thank God. And it was a very difficult step because a lot of that stuff I was clinging to for decades upon end. And at the same time, once I got done with the fear process and the harms, and I'm sitting across, there was something that happened. And, we often talk about step 9's promises, but for me, when I think about step 5, it's promises about feeling a nearness to my Creator, being able to look the world in the eye, being able to be alone at perfect peace and ease. Step 5 was something else. Also, my sponsor did something wonderful. After, going through all of that, Bob suggested that I make a list of attributes, some things that were good about me. And I think I came up with about 11 or 12. But that was an uplifting process. And you combo that up with the promises that had clearly come true. It was an amazing step for me. 6 and 7 are kind of funny. I got a funny story about them. And they're the 2 steps that early on in sobriety, some men that were in sobriety had told me that they live in 6 and 7. Now, I read these 2 paragraphs on 1 page, right, in the big book. And I read 6th paragraph, I read 7th paragraph, and I called up my sponsor and said, Bob, I'm on 8. And he's like, wait a minute, it doesn't really work like that. And I can tell you it doesn't. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. These 2 steps work in conjunction, and they're, again, I'll say it over and over again for the rest of my life, God willing. It's an amazing program. So step 6 is asking me to attempt to be the best version of Eric that I can possibly be. Step 7 reminds me that I'm probably going to come up short on it a time or 2. But it's okay to continue to try. And that's what I do. I think there's a direct line from each of the steps that I do tied to 6 and 7. Because on any given day, I can slip, my character defects still come out. I've taken the edge off of them. They're not as glaringly obvious as they once were. But I'm still going to come up short on any given day. There may be a day where I, once again, have become closed-minded. I think I know everything, and I've re-entered the debating society. Recognize that. I may be unwilling on any given day, and I need to recognize that. This is what 6 and 7 do for me. I'm still on the journey. I'm on the journey today. Again, God willing, I will always say that. 8 and 9, and making amends, which I was still willing to do. I come into the program willing. I was willing to do whatever it took. And it's really amazing to me that most of the damage almost all of the damage I did to people I loved. It was a wrecking ball. I can't tell you how much damage I did to my mother and father. There's aunts and uncles, there's sisters and brothers, and all these people that I love, that love me, were the one that I owed an amends to. Now the problem for me is, I can't tell you how many times I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do this again, I'm sorry. So it's a very rewarding step, but sorry just wasn't going to work for me. The simple truth of the matter is I had to recognize the problem, let everyone know that I could have done better, and I didn't, and that's on me. But the funny part is about amends is the second that we come into the program and begin to honestly attack the program, chase sobriety like I used to chase drugs and alcohol, we begin to make amends. Whether it's one of the many things that I didn't even recognize, but that's how it works for me. And I'm still making amends today. And that's the just absolute beauty of the program. I always tell people I'm running a race with no finish line. I'm the cargo boat carrying cargo that's never going to port. That's what the program means to me. Step 10, you know, the step 10, listen, truth be told, I'm inconsistently consistent. Step 10 is funny, on the lookout. I'm always on the lookout for what I could have done better. You know, where was there, and I'm a terrible writer, I don't write. But I can ask myself questions on the end of the day, or during the day, spot check inventory. You know, is there something I could have done better? Was I selfish? Was I dishonest? Was there a resentment building up? And be on the lookout. And the funny thing is about 10, 11, and 12, I consider them growth steps. It's where I grow. If I'm into them and doing step even inconsistently, for me, step 10, and it's just a theory of mine, naturally leads to 11 and 12. And the reason I say that is 10's instructions. Okay, let's say I got fired up one day and I handled something wrong. Well, I asked my higher power to take it away, like relieve me of this, and then I need to get on the horn and tell somebody about it, and then it asks me to maybe help somebody. There's almost a natural progression that I see from 10, 11, and 12. They're all tied together. Recently, not too long ago, just a few months ago, that the power of step 11 sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact, which I believe if we're asking God to remove something in step 10, I'm attempting to improve my conscious contact with God as I understand Him. And here's where it gets good. Praying only for the knowledge of His will for me and the power to carry that out. Now, early on, I mentioned selfishness. I was bad. Really, really bad. You know, it was always about what does Eric get out of it? What are you going to do for me? And that's how I operated. And here I am, recognizing the second half of step 11, the power to carry that out, right? I'm not thinking about Eric any longer. It's the magic of the program, and I'll backtrack to the prayer in step 3 and the prayer in step 7. How this program, if you go through it, just destroys selfishness, every selfish bone in my body. If I'm involved in the 12 steps, chances are pretty darn good that I am not selfish. I think about step 3's prayer, relieve me of the bondage of self. I think about the part in 7 where it says, free me of my character defects so my usefulness to you, my higher power, and my fellows. And then step 11, which I kind of butcher all the time. And I say that in a prayer because what the program has taught me is to attempt to be selfless. So I think about the prayer of St. Francis, right? And I'm on the lookout. My higher power has me on the lookout. AA's program has me on the lookout. I'm on the lookout to comfort. I'm on the lookout to understand. I'm on the lookout to love. And then I have to take a look at myself. Was I afforded this opportunity, and did I act upon it? Because God's not going to give me patience. He's going to grant me the opportunity to be patient. Did I or did I not? That's the program for me. And then the whole culmination of the program, right? It's the one thing the one thing that our program, without question, promises all of us. Step 12. Having had a spiritual awakening, as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to our fellow alcoholic and practice these principles in all of our affairs. Just buried the nail right there. Having had a spiritual awakening. Well, I'm not going to try to convince you of my spiritual awakening. That's not my job. I can only tell you that without question, something has happened. I'm not the same man I was 5 years ago. I'm going to quote my father now. Today, I see things differently, and I feel things differently. That is my spiritual awakening. And due to the fact that I see things differently and feel things differently, I act differently. I'm a better man today. My hand is always out to AA. I always want to help whatever I can possibly do. And the principles that I've learned in this program, love and tolerance, gratitude, forgiveness, compassion. I'll tell you what, acceptance is the one I have struggled the hardest with. When things are clicking, I am all accepting, I'm all over it. When things go awry, I have a little bit more difficulty accepting the things that happen around me. But I can tell you what, that stuff that Step 10 talks about, fear and dishonesty and resentments and selfishness, those are really hard to rear your head. Rear their head, I should say. If I'm living in gratitude, if I'm living in forgiveness, and I'm compassionate, and I'm loving, and I'm tolerant, that other stuff that Step 10 talks about, well, it's really hard for it to show its head, because I'm living a different way. And that's what AA has taught me. The last thing I'm going to say is I've spent a long time in the dark. Today I walk in the light. I hold my head up high. I make eye contact with the people I see. Where there was only despair that I used to carry around. Today I have hope. I have hope for me, and I have hope for all of you. Where there was fear and anger, I'm loving and tolerant today. And I'd just like to say thank you to each and every one of you for being here and letting me bring the message of AA to you. Thank you.
Incredible stuff. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian. I'm an alcoholic. The group would like to thank Eric first and foremost for coming out here tonight, delivering an incredible message of hope and recovery to our group here. A couple quick announcements and we'll close things down here. This group has food and fellowship every week at 8 o'clock, so we always welcome you to join us early. Enjoy the coffee, the donuts, whatever other food we turn up with for the week. If you do want to get involved with this group, you want to show up early, help us out with some service work. We always got a lot of moving parts going to this meeting, so if you want to show up early, help us set up some chairs, greet people, help out with the kitchen, that's always appreciated too. This group is all about service. As Nick mentioned, we have a couple H&I commitments, so again, you can see me, see any home group member if you're interested in getting involved with any of that kind of stuff. If you do want to help us out with a little bit of service work right after the meeting, we could always use a hand putting the chairs away, putting all the chairs away, or probably leave the ones in the back there at the tables, right? Yeah, leave the ones at the back of the tables. These ones on the floor we'll put away. It is customary for us to thank our speakers as they do come here on their own time and expense. So we do usually form a line in the front here, and we thank our speakers on a personal level if you care to do so. Just want to thank everybody for helping out with the meeting tonight. Thanks to our greeters, our readers, and let's thank our speaker, Eric, one more time. And if you do care to join us, we have a beautiful way of closing down the meeting. We are going to circle up, close down with our Lord's Prayer. can make it. Come on, Jesse. If you do care to join us, we will close down the meeting as always with a brief moment of silence for the still sick and suffering alcoholic inside and outside of these rooms, followed by our Lord's Prayer. Our Father,